All right, we pulled the turnips out of the garden and we cleaned them up, and now we're getting ready to make some turnip greens. The recipe is very similar to what you would do for collards, but the texture on turnip greens are a lot different than collards. Collards is kind of like a waxy leaf. This stuff's really kind of itchy. In fact, Barb, she's sitting here wearing gloves because it aggravates her a little bit. Reminds me a little bit of like okra. Okra kind of messes with your skin a little bit, but all you do is you tear the leaves off of the stem like this, and then we make a little pile, and then she cuts them into smaller strips. And this looks like a lot, but it cooks down quite a bit, so we only have a little bit more we got to process. But this was like a whole couple rows that were in my garden, and so let's see how this turns out. All right, so we finished stripping the stems out, and we need to get a weight because the recipe's for like a pound, and I bet you there's quite a bit here, but this might be 2 or 3 pounds. We'll see. And from there we can adjust our recipe and start the cooking. This is probably gonna be a 2-pot meal here, I think. Unfortunately, I forgot to take the chickens out of the freezer the other day, so I've got 2 blocks of chicken here. A 6.6 pound and a 6.2 pound that we grew in our own area out there. These are Cornish rocks, and they are beautiful chickens. So this will be something probably on today's Monday, so maybe on Wednesday I'll be cooking these. But boy, wouldn't that have been good with some collards. I guess you noticed I said collards. Turnip greens. We're so used to cooking collards. This is something different for us. First time I've ever grown turnips. So let's see how this works out. Anyways, we decided we better put it in a bag and try to weigh it, but I don't have a scale, at least up here in our kitchen area, except for our bass scale, and it doesn't register down, in a couple pound range. So we're just going to guesstimate we got about 3 pounds here and do our recipe that way and just modify it as we go. So, hey, it's not baking, so you can do this. All right, so we cut up some bacon into some cube pieces and then spread them apart. It was a 1.5 pound bag of bacon, and we used half of the container. And then the onions were kind of small, but these are Valdelia onions. There's 4 smaller Valdelia onions. And we're going to put these in and go ahead and fry all this up and get that started. I'm trying to talk the wife into let me use some jalapenos, but these will probably be fried up separately and put into my batch. I like jalapenos. All right, so let's keep going. All right, the ingredients list on this is pretty simple. In fact, it didn't call for the bacon or the onions, but that's just us. Bacon and onions make everything taste better. And so you're supposed to use some chicken broth. Well, we had some bone broth in there, so we're going to use that. And then you're supposed to have a little bit of sugar and some water, and I'll show you the amounts we use when we get there. But it's a real simple, salt and pepper too. And, I went ahead and took those jalapenos that I had from my garden. I had like 3 small ones. I'm just going to throw them in here. I ate a couple of them. They're so early, they don't really have any heat at all. They're more like bell peppers. All right, so everything's kind of mixed in here, and it's smelling pretty good. We're going to kind of brown these up just a little bit, and then we're going to add all the ingredients together, and then I don't know how long it cooks. I got to go look at the recipe. But I'm going to attach the recipe to in the description. But keep in mind, this is highly modified because bacon makes everything taste better, right? Okay, we added our liquids in here. Pretty good amount of water. Whole container of the bone broth. Add some salt and pepper and a little bit of sugar. And again, you just follow the recipe that I'm going to have in the thing. We did find that recipe had like a healthy version which didn't have the bacon and stuff, and then we had the appropriate version, which is what we're following, except we're using actually chunks of bacon instead of just bacon grease. Alrighty, let's keep going. We got to get this boiling, and then we throw our last ingredient, which is the no, what is it now? I already forgot. Turnips. Can't remember what we're cooking. So I forgot to show the radishes that came out of the garden. These are like all kinds of oddball things, but again, I'm not a gardener in the sense that like they grow in the stores, but there's a whole bunch of weird shaped radishes, and they taste like radishes, which it's kind of interesting. I'm not a big fan of radishes, but we're growing everything to try it all. They definitely got a bite. When you first bite it, I don't know what it reminds me of. It tastes really good the first bite, and then as you're eating a big one, it actually kind of gets hotter and hotter and hotter. So maybe a little bit like wasabi, but a little more peppery taste. But these are good. I could sit here and munch on these every once in a while, but I don't think I could eat 10 straight. They get pretty hot. Okay, so the pot swallowed all of those greens, and now we just kind of got to stir this in, and we got to stir it like every 15 minutes. All right, so when you turn it into the mix, you can see we don't have a full pot anymore. It's about a half a pot, but that's all still a lot. That's a huge, I mean, this is, I think, an 8-quart Califon pot, so we got about 4 quarts cooking here. And we're going to cook this for a little while and keep checking on it, see what it tastes like. But these are really thin leaves. They're not heavy like collards. So I don't think it's going to take a long time to cook this. So anyways, the excitement's over. That's the amount of the cooking that's required. And we're just going to partake of it in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this, and I'll put the recipe for you. And you know, let's grow our garden and let's eat our garden. That's what we're trying to do. All right, God bless. Hope everybody's taking good care of you.